Hello and welcome to another Which Bookie preview. It's a Cheltenham preview. Myself and Will are together again so we can talk through some of the races. It is the 3-day November meeting at Cheltenham. In this particular episode, we'll be covering our first thoughts for Friday and for Saturday. We'll record a separate video for Sunday because there's loads of weather warnings out there for heavy rain and such. So we want to see how things have panned out on that first day. But also at the same time, it's exciting, right, Will? Cheltenham's back. We want to start talking horses. So we'll cover Friday first, Saturday next, the normal logical order. May not have thoughts on every single race, but if there are changes in those thought processes, you can find out our final selections at whichbookie.co.uk. There's a link in the description for those free daily tips. You can find mine and Will's on there whenever we fancy something. And that's probably all the housekeeping we need at the start of this, Will. So excited for the return of Cheltenham and excited for the return of these previews?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, obviously 3 days down at Cheltenham. It's always a really good meeting, isn't it? The open meeting. We've had the October meeting, of course, which was good, but probably the back end of the summer campaign for a lot of horses, whereas this is the real meaty stuff for the winter-bred horses. And the weather's going to arrive in no uncertain fashion to greet them as well. I think there's amber weather warnings tomorrow on Friday. So, yeah, we're going to need some soft ground lovers or perhaps even heavy ground lovers.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, I think is the fair way to say it. And previous years as well, the October meeting going into the November meeting, there seems to be quite a lot of form lines that move through with the massive change in weather this time from October to November meeting. I don't know how many of those will necessarily carry through, but look, if we start talking about the races, some of those bits of information we can throw in there. So, of course, we'll start logically with Friday. The first race on Friday is the 110 Conditional Jockeys Handicap Hurdle over 2 miles, 5 furlong. Would this be one you've got too much to say about, Will?
Yeah, no, it is one. It's one I've already put up a bet, actually, on the website. Given the sort of predictability around what the ground conditions will be, I've gone for the fact that it's going to be soft at the very, very least by race time, even for the first race. They won't have opened it up, of course, so it won't be absolutely bottomless by that stage, but it's certainly going to be on the soft side, given the rain's going to start in the early hours of the morning. And it's Philip Hobson Johnson White's Cap Vert, who I think has a really, really good chance here. If you look back to his novice hurdle form last season, it all came on very soft ground. It was good form behind the likes of Castle Carrick, Durancon, really good, and Diva Luna, of course, as well, who we saw win yesterday at Bangor. And basically is a horse that I think is a lot better than his handicap mark. He's just not quite had the proper ground to show it as yet. His 3 handicaps have come on decent ground or yielding ground over at the Punchestown Festival. But his run on seasonal reappearance behind Paso Doble at Fontwell was a very good one. And it just suggested to me that he's ready to strike on ground that will suit and a track that should suit as well. And the jockey booking I really like, Freddie Keithley as well, for a yard that I don't think have used him before, if not at all. So, but he's a jockey that does ride Cheltenham well. He's obviously a local lad, and he knows the nuances of how to ride the track there in terms of where to be on particular ground conditions. So I really like that booking. He's around about 8-1, 15-2, something like that. I think he's about anything 5-1 plus.
Oh, I like that. Some confidence to kick off the Friday. I'm glad you've got some confidence because it was a race that I found a little bit muddling. I'm still caught up with Norman Fletcher from last time after being supported and running so bad. But 5 furlongs further, is that really what he needs? And he's a big price, but probably an obvious shortener. But we don't want value losers. The one that I'd like half an eye on was Callium, who I thought was quite good at Newbury at the back end of last year. Made a bad mistake, 2 out. Then jumped the last really well, which I like to see in horses. It's all well and good making a mistake, but how do you react after that? Proper knuckle down with his head down, and looks like a pretty useful horse for Tim Vaughan. Was a pretty good bumper winner as well the time before that, ridden by Patrick Munnins over in Ireland before joined this stable. With respect to the jockeys, I'm not so sure that the jockey booking is a massive positive in this instance, and a horse that maybe might progress through the season, but rated 125, so pretty much the ceiling of this. You can sneak in for 126 or 127. Half wonder whether they've waited as this as an opportunity to go, look, you've got a potential Cheltenham type horse in a race that would probably suit. That race at Newbury was on better ground, but has got form on some slower stuff too. So I think Callium could go well. Like I say, a horse with a real good attitude at a bigger price, but wouldn't be a race that I've got loads of confidence in, which actually leads me nicely on to the second race on Friday, the 145. It is the Veterans Handicap Chase over 2 miles, 4 furlongs. Now, it wasn't this meeting, it was the December meeting when Numitor won. I don't know how I managed to talk myself out of the horse, but the horse won nicely. Bit of a mixed pattern for that horse again. Pulled up first, pulled up first, pulled up. But this year's renewal looks really good with all the names we've got in there. But I don't know how you possibly pick this race apart and find a winner. So for me, I was trying to build a bit of a case for Eldorado Allen, which I think I can do. Need to see how ground conditions change a little bit. But for me, it doesn't really look like a race that I should be betting in. It feels like a race I'm just looking at because it's Cheltenham and I'm maybe trying to find a bet. So not the best advice for punters out there. But have you got any stronger opinions in this race?
It wouldn't be a strong opinion. I think Fugitive is the right favourite. Like this time last year, he was running in Paddy Power Gold Cups and things like that and running really, really well. So obviously into the Veterans Chase Series now, he runs well fresh as well. He handles soft ground. There's no real value in his price. He's a general 3-1, which I think is about right. But he's probably won for a few each-way multiples, maybe. I think I can see him running very, very well. One at a bigger price that might outrun his price is The Real Deal for Philip Rothwell. He's a horse who, certainly since he joined this yard, having been with John McConnell, he's turned a bit of a corner and he's got good form on a decent surface over in Ireland towards the back end of the summer and early autumn. But he's got some really good soft ground form, actually, if you go back not too far into the dim and distant past. So he's around about a 16-1 shot. I thought he could... he's not a bet, I don't think, but he's certainly one, or not an out-and-out bet anyway, might be just one for a small each-way interest in the race. I could see him going well, definitely, because he's in much better form now.
Oh, I like that. And it's a good race. I like the Veteran Series, especially these middle distance ones. I like races where you can make a bit of a case for any horse at a price. Probably one for your place pot legs, isn't it? To stick a couple of them in there and we'll see how things pan out. But yeah, Fugitive is the right favourite. It's tricky with some of the horses, isn't it? Because you see their form tail off a little bit and you think, have they been waiting to do so with the horse after? Like you said, there's a big necessarily drop in class. But sometimes I just see some horses and think they've just fallen out of love with the game. And I know races like this can spark their enthusiasm, like Eldorado Allen in the race in the December meeting last year seemed to love the game again back here. But I'm just excited to watch it. I think it'll be a great spectacle. But yeah, you've got stronger opinions in there than I have. Moving on to the listed Novices Chase after in the 220 wheel. This is over 3 miles, 1 furlong. We've only got the 5 runners in here. But from a betting market, it looks fairly tight. We've got Wade Out at the top of the market, 9-4. Leave of Absence, 3-1 top price at the time of recording, but ever shortening. Double Powerful's 4-1. One of the horses that's weak in the market, but I say that just because there's money for other horses. One Big Bang, top price 9-2, but that's only in one place now, as short as 7-2 in places. And then Isaac Dezobo is top price 17-2, but a general 8-1 shot. So I feel like I did a bit of work on this one, and there's a horse that I would want to bet. Whether I think this is a serious novice chaser for the season is a different story. So I'd be keen to know your thoughts on this one first, Will. Was there anything you found as an in for this race?
No, I think the floor's yours, Dave. I found it tricky, I must admit. So,
ooh, lovely.
A more convincing case, so take it away.
Well, I don't know if it's a more convincing case, but obviously everything to do with the betting is value and whether the horse is priced bigger than the chance you perceive it to have. And on official ratings, you look at this one, Leave of Absence has got like loads in hand technically on the official ratings, but obviously they're always just someone else's opinion, aren't they? His form is on better ground and he was raised a stone for that last win as well. So I don't think he's as clear as the official rating would suggest on the figures. Wade Out's another horse, hiked up after a win last time out. £10 for his, it was only a head victory, wasn't it, over Wendigo, but that probably looks a little bit more fair. One Big Bang and Isaac Zobo haven't been seen this season, but Double Powerful has. And I thought it was a pretty decent effort in the Novices Handicap Chase here last month over the middle distance. He is a course winner from last season. He won a race that we'll talk about a little bit later on. And he has got form on desperate ground as well. He wasn't beaten that far at Aintree over this sort of trip where Deep Cave won that race. And this week, Deep Cave's come out and won a nice pot himself. I just think Double Powerful, for all that going into the meeting last season was like a low 100 rated horse, I think he's definitely progressive. I think he's improving. And I think this is the type of race where, like I say, early in the season, he might be able to pick up something like this, a listed race. I'm not expecting him to be winning graded races when it comes to the spring. But there's some of those other horses that, like Leave of Absence and like Wade Out, that I think, I don't know, maybe might be better suited to handicaps. They've had their first win this season in a race where they've been hyped up. They looked tuned for those. That may be the case still going through to here. But I think the way the ground's going to turn, Double Powerful looks like the right bet at 4-1. Like I say, a little bit weak in the market. I'll be interested in what Double Powerful can do in here. 136 looks about his mark. Like I say, on paper, Leave of Absence is well clear of that horse, but I don't think those official ratings are reflective of the horse's abilities. So Double Powerful is one that I want to probably get in with. It would never be a strong bet in this one, I think, just because of how he's progressed from, like I say, a low 100s type horse. But I think at the prices, Double Powerful's probably the one that I'd like to side with. There we go. Case made. Whether it's a strong enough case to get him in the column or not, you'll have to check the link in the description to find out. But we move on to the slower chase. John Bond's won this the last 2 years. John Bond's in at the head of the market. Does he just win it again?
Probably. I mean, I've never felt he absolutely wants ground as testing as it might be. I've never felt that he's probably his absolute optimum at Cheltenham. But combination of the two, he has put in some good performances on both soft ground and at Cheltenham as well. And it might well be that he's got enough in hand of Loader Sud and Liberty Hunter, the main two in against him in the market, that he'll get away with it. And Nicky Henderson's horses have just started to fire as well, haven't they, in the last week? So you can have him absolutely tuned up and ready, you would imagine, before going on for the Tingle Creek. Market has it about right, really. In these types of races, I always look for the angle perhaps in the without market, but I do think Loader Sud and Liberty Hunter are the right two next in. So for me, it was a bet that I'm going to watch with interest, but I can't see anything standing out as a bet at this stage, really. If Matata had run a bit better at the October meeting, then he might well be of interest. But if he did run well, or if he did run better then, he wouldn't be as big a price as he is now. So it's all factored in. But yeah, it's about where it should be, I think, the market for this.
Yeah, exactly that. Because I looked at Matata a little bit. There's a little bit of support for that horse. 16's top price as low as 11-1. Because I feel like he's sort of the obvious one in here to look at as going to make some pace, like when he got backed into favouritism at Newbury, didn't he? But that didn't quite pan out. I just think with John Bond, I know it's a short one, so people don't really need me to say too much about it. And like I say, he's won it the last 2 years. But for a horse that's only lost a couple of times, it might sound a little bit silly to say, well, he's very good fresh. But he is very good fresh. You look at sometimes when he makes mistakes, it's against better class of horses in the spring campaign. And with respect to the field in here, I just don't think anything's going to be able to put him under the cosh and make him make mistakes. He did in that Clarence House a couple of years ago, didn't he, when it was rearranged at Cheltenham, made the massive mistake. Nico wasn't riding, rode through to the line and almost still beat Elixir de Nuts that day, which I thought was a phenomenal effort. So I think he's all right around Cheltenham for all that in a champion chase he seems to keep coming unstuck. He was unlucky this year, wasn't he, with the tape at the start?
Yeah.
It's just when you look at him and I'm starting to see even money about John Bond for a horse that definitely needs further these days. This is the starting point for him. I think the slower ground might help that for him. He's had a wind up over the summer as well. So, yeah, I'm treading a tight line, I think, with John Bond, looking at him as even money, thinking that is an absolute gift. That's the sort of price I kind of half expected him to be on a super boost or something. So we'll see what the bookies do on the day, but he might just be one of those horses, mightn't he? If you've got a couple of accounts where they're offering you a super boost on John Bond, because the bookies will want to get him beat, won't they? Maybe smaller stakes, I think he might end up being the one to side with. I don't like these races from a betting thing to try and take him on when I know that he's so far clear as well, with the each way market only being 7 runners. And then also when you look at the betting without markets, I do think you can make a case for a few of them. So looks a very trappy betting heat. I'm hoping John Bond gets back to winning ways. If he does start turning odds against, then I think he's going to have to be a selection because he does go so well fresh. Had that wind up tinkering. I know what you mean about the ground as well, but I just think against this sort of company, he's just got no excuses, has he? And he is the best horse on paper. So easy to make a case for John Bond when he's such a good horse. But yeah, didn't expect him to be even money. So we'll see how that pans out come through to Friday. Right, moving on to the next graded action on the card wheel. It's I think it's the Hyde Novices Hurdle, the Albert Bartlett Trial, over 2 mile 5 furlongs. This is a nice race. I've liked this one year after year. We've got a real good looking head of the market here. We've got Heads Up at 5-2. We've got No Drama this end at 4-1. Then we've got Great Fleet 11-2. We will only have done is 13-2, and then it's 10-1 or bigger the rest. But Heads Up was second in the champion bumper. No Drama this end was a very, very, very impressive bumper winner against a nice Skelton Hort, Cop de Boards. Yeah. I think they're both really nice prospects, but I don't know how the market could split these, and I don't know how you could have confidence over one or the other. Did you have a stronger opinion than me, other than thinking probably one of them two will win it?
I think, they're probably very, very nice horses. Well, they are on what they did in bumpers, obviously, but the fact that they're both coming here so inexperienced over obstacles, and one of them is making their seasonal debut as well, it does sort of lend me down the road for trying to find something at a slightly bigger price, really. Again, it won't be an out-and-out selection for the column as such, but it's certainly a race where I can see those at double-figure prices running well. So certainly a race that you could factor into your play spots and hope that one or two of those at the top of the market blow out a little bit. The couple at bigger prices that I was interested in were Fountains Blenheim for Anthony Honeyball. who really is in the sort of could be anything category to some degree as well. You know, he was a decent bumper horse before blowing out at Aintree, but then, I mean, he won at Fontwell doing handstands really. In what was a half decent time for the day and the grade. Actually, it was the same day that Cat Vare ran at Fontwell as well, and the time stands up quite well, the both of those two, in respect to that. So it might well be a sort of tenuous form boost for his chance, Fountains Blenheim. And the other one is the Nigel and Willie Twiston Davies 4-year-old, Into Something Good, who, assuming that Sam Twiston Davies has deserted him because he rides Fountains Blenheim, but Nico de Boinville's an interesting booking for him. And he comes out of a race at Carlisle won by the skeleton horse, Tormund Giant Spain, last time out. That was a couple of weeks ago. That was really, really strongly run on a day where every other race on that card over the hurdle track was very slow in comparison. So the fact that it was just a sort of lowly novice, or not lowly novice hurdle, just a fair to middling novice hurdle where we don't know a huge amount about the horses, I took a really positive view of that race. And he handled soft ground there at Carlisle, which really surprised me because you watch him run and watch his action. It looks like he floats across the ground, but he seemed to really appreciate it, actually. And late on, when it looked like he was going to be swallowed up, he ran on again. So I think he's just a real strong stayer, this 4-year-old. And it's a fascinating bit of placement from the Twiston Davies team because they love runners at Cheltenham. Maybe it's just a runner, at their local track at a big meeting. But I think you can get 16 to 1, 18 to 1. I could see him outrunning that price. Whether he's quite fresh enough, quite upwardly mobile enough to beat some of the horses in here that are probably a bit fresher, not so sure. But he can really outrun his price, I think.
Yeah, well, fair play with that one. I mean, it's the 6-race card on the Friday, so again, I'll touch on the place pot perspective of it in here. You've got those nice prospects at the front of the market. You've got, not even conflicting, but you've got different angles coming in with those. Heads Up did beat No Drama this end in the Champion Bumper, but going into that race, one was like a third of the price of the other. And I don't think there'd be too many Paul Nicholls novices that he would send straight to Cheltenham for a race like this. So I think the horse is obviously held in well regard, but still needs to back up whether Cheltenham's an issue for the horse or not. There's lots of questions to answer. I just think of the front couple, and given, I guess, the profile of the two of them, a Champion Bumper second and then a horse that looks like a very serious novice, you just think they might mind him in a race like this, mightn't you, if things don't quite go to plan. So again, from a place pot perspective, I can't imagine them flogging the horses to the finish to try and just get third. If they're not in contention of winning, they might be minded. And obviously horses, like you're saying, maybe even if it is a bit of a social runner, a horse that's got a bit of form, like the Twiston Davies one, could pick up the pieces. And yeah, especially if we get a shock in the Shloer chase with John Bon going out, the place pot could pay quite nicely. That leads us into the final leg of the place pot, Will.
Yep.
The 4 o'clock, we've got a Novices Handicap hurdle. It's another 0 to 125. But this is a race where there's 2 horses in here that you'd probably say, I think they're definitely both better than 125 if they were able to show what they can do. We've got Alphonse Legrand, who's been showing his exploits on the flat for a while now, hasn't he? I think Cesare Ricci did win on soft ground. Not the most prolific of horses, but he is £30 better on the flat since he last hurdled. I think that was November 2023. And he's still racing off of around the same sort of hurdle mark. So, I mean, very easy to say that he's probably a couple of stone better than his mark. But then I thought the same for Spillane's Tower, going back over hurdles instead of chasing. It's a different discipline. Doesn't always pan out like that, does it? Fortune de Mer, massive drifter last time out, like an uncomfortably big drifter. It was about 7 to 2, I think, in the morning when I was putting in the column, and went off at 14 or at least touched that price. Don't know what it would have been on the machine at different occasions, but the hood seems to have worked with that horse because he was still messing about the line. He got the job done. But the mark that he's off 124, he's shown in the past that he's got more ability than that, I think. And then even in there, he's got his head down despite dodging about a little bit. So he's probably entitled to be much better class than the rest of these. But is it, again, one of those races where I've talked about the front 2 in the market for the previous race, thinking they're the obvious ones, rightly so because of the market. And then the 4 o'clock, I'm saying the same. Like, I think Alphonse Legrand and Fortune de Mer both should be bang there, but I wouldn't trust either of them to win this race. So are you able to find one at a bigger price that's got to be the play? Because there are 4 and 5 places up for grabs.
Yeah, another one that I've recommended already, actually. I've top and tailed the card in terms of selections already for tomorrow's meeting on the website. And it's Shade of Winter for Evan Williams with Harry Cobden booked. I think Harry Cobden's something like 5 from 14 or 5 from 16 for the yard in his career. He's obviously been booked on some of the horses that they either fancy or that they need educating, given Adam Wedge is out with injury, unfortunately. But I think it's fascinating that He has had a host of options, Shade of Winter, up until now, but Evan Williams is happy to run him in here. His novice hurdle form from last season reads extremely well in relation to his handicap mark of 114, and the fact that this is a 0 to 125 as well. I think in time he could be a 130, 140 horse, if not slightly better on what he's done. He really has shown some really good novice hurdle form when you wouldn't normally associate Evan Williams runners as being, tuned up and absolutely ready for novice hurdles. So you look at that form and you look at the fact that, he's gone to the booking of Harry Cobden, and given it'll be the last race on a card when they're going to have a huge amount of rain, the track's going to be chewed up. Harry Cobden, you want on your side in those situations because he will go. He might probably hug the very outside. He'll probably be out up halfway up Cleve Hill and coming down in the seek for fresh ground, and that will count for plenty. Even if he gives up so many lengths, it really will count for plenty on the hurdle course at Cheltenham. We see it time and time again. And if you want a jockey on your side in that respect, Harry Cobden is it. I think Shades of Winter, is very nicely treated in a grade a lot lower than he will be in at some stage. He's got a good jockey. He'll handle the ground. And the last, I guess, doubt there is that he's ready for this. But you'd imagine Evan Williams will have him ready, given he's had a whole host of entries.
I like that, and it's the ruckers as well, isn't it, for Evan Williams? I remember Coconut Splash a good few years ago, looked like the best handicapped horse. Everyone thought they were plotting him for something, and then just never really won again, did he? But Liberty Hunt is probably the better, more recent one from last season when Issair Dairy was well backed, wasn't it? And then like Liberty Hunt looked like the right horse. Harry Cobden was booked, won like the good thing. So yeah, solid enough case made there. Like I say, trappy looking race that last race because the couple at the front could be something special, but I wouldn't trust either of them. I wouldn't want to be backing either of them. So
Fortune Demare, I think, is a decent ground horse. I think with his keen tendencies, I don't think this ground is going to help him. No. And Alphonse Legrand, he won a Cesarewitch, 2 mile, 2 furlong on, it was testing ground, that's fine. But in relation to 2 miles around the old track at Cheltenham, for all that the ground will bring stamina into play to some degree, that's a lot sharper test than an out and out galloping 2 miles, 2 furlongs at Newmarket. For all that he's got loads in hand on ratings, I think Tony Martin is probably having a trouble trying to find the right kind of race for him off the rating he's at over hurdles, actually, and just hopes that he's well in enough to, to take advantage of it. But you could certainly see him being outpaced at a crucial stage.
Absolutely, yeah. And he's the type of horse as well you want to put in the right types of races because of how lowly his rating is. But you want to get him experience against the better horses, I guess. If he could run a good second or third, and he couldn't go up 10, 15 pounds, if depending on how the race pans out. So he can start climbing that mark up, can't he? But yeah, fascinating looking race. You've definitely made a good case there for Shade of Winter to close out the Friday card. Right, Will? We'll move on to Saturday. I was going to ask for a best bet of Friday, but I think it's tricky enough with the weather the way that it is. You guys can check out our columns in there. We'll put star staking systems in there, so it'll be the same as sort of a point wins in there, so you can find out through that what our best bets are. And obviously Will's already put a couple up with the prices change and things like that as well. They would have been maybe stronger fancied bigger prices there in the week, but just click that link on the description every single day and you can find out what we fancy. Right, Will, Saturday we've got some good racing. The Paddy Power Gold Cup is the feature race of the day, but we do kickstart the card in the 12:35, a Triumph Hurdle Trial. It's a grade 2 over 2 miles and half a furlong. It's another one that looks like a potentially good-looking race on paper. It's really difficult to actually know the substance of some of these horses. We've got a lot of horses that have come from France with, I don't know, it's dubious form. It's difficult to rate the form, I guess is the best way of saying it, especially when they've joined a new yard. They've got a summer under their backs. There's only one horse I thought was, well, I say one horse, a couple of horses I thought were quickly worth mentioning. Was Secret Force won nicely for Gavin Cromwell last time out. Hopes Are High was the horse that he beat when he was getting £10 for that horse, who reopposes here. It's levels. It's a grade 2, but they would be a penalty for structure depending on the class of race. But those two run off the levels now. And that Hopes Are High is a 20-1 shot versus the about 5-1 that Secret Force is. So I thought Hopes Are High looked a bit overpriced, might be one to go into a bit of a place. But horses like this Precious Man and Parchment towards the front of the market, Will, very much in the it could be anything type category. So I don't know where your thoughts would be on a race like this early in the season.
Yeah, no bet for me at all. Parchment and Precious Man obviously come over from France. They've joined leading connections, I guess, officially. And if you watch the races, Parchment would be the horse that would stand out a little bit more. but you don't know how they've acclimatised. You don't know what kind of work they're doing. We don't know much about them really. I would say, that the race looks fairly deep, given you've got plenty of horses that have won juvenile hurdles, but there hasn't really been any standouts in amongst them. The only one that has kind of done something fairly credible in terms of visual performance and on the clock, there's two actually, are Lord and Secret Force. Now, Lord was doing it on slightly livelier conditions and has changed stable now as well. So watching brief with him and Secret Force, I could see the case for the form lines that he brings into this, definitely in that Punchestown race. And I think he won with a lot more in hand than the winning margin suggested that day, Secret Force. And he was a winner on heavy ground on the flat at Listowel the time before. So you could see him handling conditions as well, if they're still suitably testing on the Saturday as well, which I imagine they will be. I mean, it won't be a drying day Saturday for all that there's no rain. So, yeah, very much a watching brief. One or two interesting form lines. There'll be probably clues towards more the likes of the Boodles at the Cheltenham Festival with certain, of these runners, as opposed to an actual Triumph Hurdle trial itself. I think we'll see some of those sort of bigger, better horses coming out from the Mullins battalions and one or two others as the season draws on.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is tricky for the juveniles, I think, that start this early in the season to bring that through to the spring. But of course, it's not all about Cheltenham, but this week it still is all about Cheltenham. And that's the first leg of the play spot as well. We're just going to keep banging the drum for that this week, because especially the November meeting with the Paddy Power Gold Cup in there, even going into the second race, the 110, the Amateur Jockeys Handicap Chase. This is over 3 miles, 1 furlongs. So 0 to 135 will, but we've got 18 runners in here because of the good ground. I say good ground. I mean good as in it's good racing ground. We're going to have soft ground, no doubt, by Saturday and be a little bit chewed up. But, I mean, it's a really, really, really deep race in terms of the number of runners. But even at the market, we've got Aurora Fortuna at 100 to 30 at the front of the market. Heracles Westwood 6 to 1. Jubilee Express 7 to 1. It's then 17 to 2 for Kelsey and Sound and Fury. Then it's 12 to 1 or bigger the rest. It's full of loads of sort of old names, familiar faces, and horses that no doubt in the past we've had some sort of affinity with. So is this the type of race you've been able to pick apart so far and find anything for us?
Well, possibly. I mean, only one firm have priced it up as we speak. So it's very hard to speak in relation to, to a horse being overpriced or not. Currently the one firm that have it priced up, William Hill, they've got Aurea Fortuna as a very short market leader. And if that was across the board, then I'd be very keen to try and find something at a bigger price, because look, he's Tony Martin. He's obviously won very, very nicely last time out. He was well backed. He's handled soft ground over hurdles as well. But this is a bit of a different kettle of fish, really. It's a cavalry charge around Cheltenham with a few horses that have been there and done it. So I thought the one that stood out potentially as being an each-way play would be Ben Pauling's Sound and Fury. If he's anywhere around the kind of 8 to 1 plus mark, I thought he could be of interest. The case is pretty clear. He's a horse in form. He won at Carlisle on his seasonal debut. The yard's very much in form. He's won on soft ground, and he's got a very able pilot on board in this amateur jockeys race, Gina Andrews, as well. So I thought he, in terms of ticking boxes, there's pretty much a tick in every box for Sound and Fury. So yeah, we'll see how the market shapes up once a few more firms go up, but he's definitely on the shortlist.
Yep, like that. And it looks a real tricky race, doesn't it? I think he's a horse with headgear that they switch about a little bit and tends to not back up in the same headgear, but that's not to say the horse won't go and do that. Tricky looking race. I don't really know how much help we've been to people, but let's swiftly move away from that race, Will. Let's move to an easier play spot leg. We've got the Arkle trial at 145. Well, yeah, it probably isn't an easier leg, but I feel like it'd be an easier one to play in terms of, I guess, how I'd want to position myself in the particular race. So we've got July Flower for Henry de Bromhead. Top price 11 to 10. That's with Hills, but 8 to 11 with Flutter. We've got Be Aware next in the betting at 7 to 2. We've got Burdett Road at 5 to 1, but top price 13 to 2. Stencils 15 to 2. It's 20 to 1 or bigger. The other two, we've got Brentford Hope, Break and Cover are the other two. Now, when they first priced this up, Will, after declarations are coming, or the full confirmations, Burdett Road was second favourite. Be Aware was a bit of a bigger price. So already nibbled in has been Be Aware. Yep. This has got to be, I'd say, one of my stronger fancies of the November meeting, like just looking at the early cards. Just depends how much that price holds up for Be Aware. At the time of recording, like I say, 7 to 2. We'll see how things pan out. But I think Be Aware's a very good horse. I think everyone can see that. That handicap chase debut where they ran the horse over a little bit further, Dan Skelton said in his stable tours, he's a 2 mile horse. He'll be a 2 mile horse all this season. We know he's got a bit of a temperament thing going on, but he didn't really show that on that chase debut. Had the hood on, was in front when a horse near him fell. Other horses were sort of coming towards him in the back, and he had every reason to idle or to sort of show a bit of an attitude, and he didn't. He just knuckled down and got things gone. So I think he is a much better horse over fences already. I guess the tricky thing with these bits is like trust issues with a horse like this about whether they can keep doing it. And I'd also say a little bit to do with trust issues to do with the yard. Now, I'm not saying they do anything untoward. If they plan to make a horse an Arkle horse and it doesn't quite plan out, they've got months, haven't they, to try and turn him into a Grand Daniel type. But I fear that's what's going to happen with me and Be Aware this season, Will. I'm going to look at him and think the sun shines out of his proverbial, and I'm going to think he could be like an outsider for 2 mile graded races on this side of the sea. And then if it doesn't pan out, I'll say, oh, he's a plot for the Grand Daniel. But the interesting thing, I think, again, which is just opinions on people's figures and all those types of things out there, is that, again, on official ratings, it would look like he's got quite a bit to find with July Flower, especially with the weight concession. But they both got similar RPRs last time in respect of that sex allowance. So he got a £7 better RPR than July Flower last time out. So even though he's got to give the weight to her in this race, what they both did last time out over fences was on par as far as I'm concerned. So I can believe she's as short as she is, but I can't believe that's the right way that they should be. So I'm pretty sweet on Be Aware at 7-2. If he's anything bigger than sort of 5-2 or 2-1, he'll be a bet. I'm hoping the bookies will look at him as the type of horse they'll want to take on. But I think he should be. I can't say he should be favourite, but I think he is the one that they've all got to beat. So I've got a bit excited there about Be Aware, a horse that is a dodge, isn't he? He's only had his second win after a dozen starts, however long it's been, probably 10 starts now. How did you see this race, Will? Am I completely and utterly mad still?
No. He reminds me a little bit of Loda Sud in terms of his profile, who obviously took some real positive steps forward as a chaser in the early stages of last season, didn't he? And you can see Be Aware doing exactly the same here. I mean, he's got Cheltenham form, he's got big field handicap form, which will have toughened him up. You say he's only won twice, but he's been in some of the bigger handicap hurdles. You'd die for a horse like that to pick up little bit surprise money in all those big field events. It's not that he doesn't know how to win. He's just been in some really tricky competitive events. So I could see that. I'd have him a lot closer to July Flower as well. I agree with you. July Flower is an interesting one because she looked impressive on chase debut at Limerick. I don't know what she beat, to be fair. That was over 2 miles 3 on a stiff track at Limerick as well. And for all that she did go with a lot of pace, she'd been campaigned as a 2.5 mile plus horse previous to that in France and originally by Henry de Bromhead. So it's rare for him to get a horse like that so wrong initially. And it might well be that fences make her slightly quicker. But when she was jumping at Limerick, she did jump a little bit right and she threw herself at quite a few fences as well. So not entirely sure Cheltenham as a track will suit her with that. It's a tricky jumping track. It's tight left-handed. So I could see her, certainly not suiting and not being justifiable as such a short price favourite here. There was one horse actually that the very outsider of the whole field, breaking cover for Anthony Honeywell and Johnny Burke. I would have quite a sizable bet, not that there's any markets for it, given the relative prices. If you could suggest to me a price about him to not finish last in respect to where he's priced compared to the others, then I would have a large bet on that. Because he's been a revelation in handicaps over the back end of the summer. Now, what he's done in those events, many people will just say, well, he's just a summer handicap chaser. And he might well be, but his best performances have come when there's just been a little bit of juice in the ground. At Wincanton last time out on fast ground, back on fast ground in the Rising Stars Novices Chase, you watch that race back, he jumped and travelled better than anything for a long way of that. He just didn't stay 2.5 miles. And you watch the way he hits the ground, I could see a real case for soft ground actually improving him, which if it does, on official ratings, again, he's had more chance to prove that he's up to that kind of rating. But he's not got a huge amount to find, really. And look, he was mixing it last time out with graded hurdlers, over fences. So I think you can get 40-1 about him. I mean, I'm going to have an each way bet on him at that price. That's a ridiculous price. About a horse we knows race fit from a stable in form, could improve slightly for the ground, handles a left-handed track, jumps well. 2 miles is his trip. I mean, to me, he's way, way, way overpriced. Whether
Oh,
he
I
goes
like that.
or not, I don't know. But he won't finish last. Of that, I'm categorical.
I love that. And this is the tricky thing, Will, isn't it? Especially, obviously, it's not necessarily confirmation bias, but when we're both similarly in tune with the fact that something's probably a bit too short, which is July Flower in here. Very frustrating with some of the extra markets they do, because, the betting without, they would probably still offer 2 places when there's only 5 horses to go. You'd probably quite happily back breaking cover at 25s without Be Aware, but Be Aware's not the favourite. And it's probably, he could end up coming third, couldn't he? Be Aware goes and wins the race. Something else sandwiches the two of them, and you don't get paid out because July Flower's not up there with them. But so it's a good race, isn't it? Lots of horses with like big names, lots of I guess big form in the past. But yeah, often you can get a horse like that. He ran at, I think it was Taunton in soft ground when he fell when he was going really well, and then he ran after Huntingdon because I went to watch him at Huntingdon. I'm sure it was Huntingdon, and then he bombed, and I really fancied him, and then he didn't come back to the track for over a year. So something must have been amiss with him after the fall or going into that next race. But yeah, he's definitely he's definitely now reaching the level of the ability that he probably showed in the past as well. And like you said, I wouldn't say soft ground would completely put me off. Interesting race. And again, for that place pot perspective, let's get July Flower out there and let's hope that we can get Be Aware and Breaking Cover in the front two. Or even from your perspective, Brentford Hope and Breaking Cover would be a nice one for the place pot, and then just completely bomb the leg. Right, moving on to the big one for Saturday, Will. It is the Paddy Power Gold Cup. 15 runners go to post in here. Again, with the amount of rain that's coming in, I really do think this market's going to shake up quite a lot between now and then. And I think it probably might even revert a little bit further back if the first couple of races on the Saturday suggest that the going isn't either as bad as we thought or it's worse than we thought. But it's always one of these races, isn't it, where it's an interesting one for the markets. And sometimes it does speak volumes. We've got Jaguar at the front of the market, top price 9-2 now, as short as 100-30. Did win at Cheltenham in March. Looks very progressive. Probably does look to be the right type of horse that would go win in a race like this. Got Vincenzo in his second favourite, 11-2. I guess similar type horse, but I wouldn't have the horse as a winner of this race. You've got Panic Attack in at 6-1 third favourite. All three of those lack an abundance of chase experience in here. Then you've got the likes of Il Rodota, who doesn't lack chase experience, does he? A phenomenal horse over these sorts of trips. We've got coming up easy at 10-1. It's the Company Sergeant, who was second to Jaguar at Cheltenham. I think £1 better off now. Is another one that's in around about 10-1, but as big as 12-1. Then it's 14-1 or bigger the rest, Will. Like, this is wrecking my head trying to have any confidence in the market, in anything in here, because you genuinely should be able to make a case for a few in here. It's a target race for lots of trainers. There'll be lots of horses that have been planned to come in, lots of horses that have the right type of profile to come in here. And then you've got to try and add in, well, where should they probably sit in the market? What's the right type of bet? So when I started to make a bit of a case for Venetia Williams, Hunter Legend, who's only rated I think 129, I had to have a little bit of a look at myself, Will, and think probably as much as it is a Paddy Power Gold Cup, and that horse might be a well-handicapped horse, you do need a very good horse to win the Paddy Power Gold Cup. So with all that said, I need to do some more work, and I need to add a bit more for some conviction. But I feel like you're the type of man that can steer us in the right direction of the horse to be on for the Paddy Power Gold Cup.
Yeah, well, hopefully. I mean, it's a race I love each year because, like you said, it is one that you get the entries from an early stage, and you can see who's planning for this particular race with certain horses. And that's why the likes of Jaguar, Vincenzo, Panic Attack, they've all found themselves towards the top of the market because, excuse me, they represent connections who are good at targeting races with horses on an upward curve. And all three of those are. Jaguar, just with the stable form, I'm not completely convinced they're running as well as they'd probably hope. I think they've had a few horses turned over. And it might well be that, it's going to be that classic case of they're all having their first run and then they go on from it. But they're not banging in the winners, Ollie Greenall and Josh Guerrero. And like I said, they've had a few horses that you'd expect by the market that they would have run a bit better than they have, and they haven't. So I'd just be a bit lukewarm. I mean, if Jaguar's not 100% tuned up for this and 100% ready and fit and healthy, then he's not going to win it, no matter how well treated he might still be. Panic Attack, excuse me, I'm not sure her form is all that great, really. I know she handles the track fine, but I wouldn't be overly keen on her. The other one at the top of the market, Vincenzo, progressive. Sam Thomas having a great time of things, really good at producing horses fit and well. But again, is his form up to winning a Paddy Power Gold Cup? I personally didn't think it was. but he is young and progressive, so could improve. So the one that is just absolutely rock solid is Il Rodotto, isn't he? At 6-1, 11-2 ish. I know I saw, excuse me, I saw some comments earlier on about Harry Cobden worried about the ground for him. But if you go back 2 seasons ago, he was running career bests on soft or heavy ground. I think the ground is fine. I think it was just last year he was able to still reproduce it on decent ground. I think he's just a good horse on any ground. He's so good around this track. He had a great prep at Chepstow. Has to be an each-way play for me, Il Rodotto.
Yeah, I can't knock that one, to be fair. And he's not far off the same mark as last year either, is he? I think he's only a pound higher, maybe. So you can look at horses that are potentially well handicapped. He's been there, done it, proven it, hasn't he? So it'll be an interesting one to see how it sits. I always find it a bit uncomfortable. There's still a firm offering only 3 places, Will, when it's a 15-runner handicap. A lot of them are offering 4, but there's a couple that are doing 5. But even looking at that, the first 4 in the betting, 9-2, 11-2, 6-1, and 13-2 as their top prices. I know they're all fancied for whatever reasons, but they feel like the type of ones that they're all going to move about a little bit in the market at some point. They should all be a little bit bigger. And there's going to be something for money at the bigger prices. I thought it looked like a terrible value type race for looking at, but I haven't done enough work to really be commenting. So let's swiftly move on to a race that I've also not done too much work on to have a strong opinion in. The 255 3-mile handicap hurdle. But this looks like a nice race. We've got 10 runners in here. Supremely West for the Skeltons heads the market at 2-1. Long Draw, who I don't want to say came unstuck last time, but didn't win. And I think a lot of people were expecting the horse maybe could be the type that could turn into a Stayers Hurdle contender, or especially over this side of the sea, to be able to mixing it in sort of better company than handicaps over 3 miles. But he's in at 5-1 top price, bottom price 7-2. I guess ground could be a factor with him, couldn't it? We've got Kiki Joe at 6-1. That one's been nibbled a little bit, going down into 5-1 in a few places. Then it's London Office Calling, Gal Road, the sort of staple for Cheltenham, isn't it? It's Gal Road and these types of races. Top price 10-1, bottom price 6-1. But it looks like a real hard race to get a strong handle on. There's a horse, Priory Park, who's entered in here, who's also entered in the 2-mile 5 conditionals or amateur race the Friday the first day. So we'll have to see where that one decides to go. But I think that could be an interesting runner, whichever race the horse goes in. Maybe this 3 miles would suit Priory Park a little bit better. But Supremely West, rightful favourite at the front of the market. Is there going to be another Skelton smash up on a Saturday that just goes and wins?
He's the right favourite, definitely. The market has it absolutely right, really. 2-1, best price about Supremely West after a decent seasonal debut, decent stable debut. In the course and distance race at the October meeting on ground that probably wouldn't have suited as well. This ground will suit him much better. Supremely West, all his better form for a previous yard was on soft or heavy ground. He did seem to improve for headgear towards the back end of his career with the previous yard, and the headgear is not yet back on. That would just, in the back of my mind, I'd be thinking, is that something they're just saving for a Pertemps final, say? I'm surprised to see him in here in some respects, actually, because they've got the option of the valuable race at Haydock the weekend after, much more valuable than this race is. And they've qualified for the Pertemps final itself as well. So, do they look to, keep him fresh and cherry pick that particular race, which again will be more valuable, more prestigious? Or are they just going to, pot hunt, try and win this weekend, try and win the Haydock race under a penalty, which the Pipes have sometimes done? I'm not sure with him. He is the right favourite, on the back of that run, but not for me at the price, really. Couple of bigger prices that should run well. Gal Road, I think, will run well. The ground is much more in his favour than October was. He went round the inside that day when you just couldn't be on the inside of the track on that particular occasion on that card, and he ran well for a long way. He'll be fitter for that. And stablemate Prince Zaltar, I thought, was interesting as well. A horse who probably did a bit too much on the front end last time out here at the October meeting, but he's a horse who's just gradually been bubbling under and been building up to something as well. So I could see him outrunning his price. He might well be in the places as well. But yeah, at this stage, right favourite, will like the ground. Maybe just a small each way look at some of those at bigger prices, Gal Road and Prince Zaltar.
Yeah, and the penultimate leg of the play spot would be on Saturday. It looks like a tricky one. Might even just be the type of race where you could just leave Supremely West as a banker and hope that some people are trying to take him on and get him beat. Maybe looks a tricky one. Good Luck Charms. She's a mare that probably confuses me more than anything, because at times I've looked at her and thought, I think she's a free miler as well, like the Yard do, and then she runs terrible. Then she runs terrible again. but they keep persisting with her at 3 miles. And I wonder if the ground might help her outrun her odds at 20-1, but it would be sort of me clutching, not necessarily at straws, but clutching to find a selection rather than have any confidence. But there's lots of other racing in there over the weekend as well we can get stuck into. The intermediate hurdle, the penultimate race on the Saturday, we're at 3:30. This is over 2 miles, 5 furlong. This is a real nice race all the time. I like these ones. It's a 0-140. We've got 13 runners in here. There's lots of like nice names and horses that you could make different bits of case for. Holloway Queen's one that's top price 14-1 with William Hill, one of the first to price up as short as 15-2, so 7.5-1 with some firms. So that's probably going to be a sea of blue on odds checker by the time anyone watches this. We've got Friendship, who won at last meeting. We've got Royal Infantry, who's a nice type. We've got Duran Con. We've got Catboy in here. Hamsian. There's so many, like a full handful of horses that you could make a bit of a case for. You'd expect to be a bit progressive. And to me, it looks like a real competitive race. Again, for this one, for me personally, probably call it a cop-out, but I really do feel like I need to see how the ground's going to be going underfoot, because a lot of these horses have got form that I think is a bit more ground-dependent than others. But did you have any stronger convictions in the 3:30?
I agree with you. I think it's a really good race. I think it'll be one that produces probably the most winners if placed in the right grades in the coming weeks and months, really. Like you said, the likes of Durancon, Royal Infantry, Friendship, Catboy, Holloway Queen, say Different for Sam Thomas. I'd be amazed if they all don't win another race or two this season in their respective grades. You know, they'll all be pitched in deep, but they've all got good races still in them. They're really progressive. The one of them that I thought would have been in amongst those in terms of the market and the prices that's not is Royal Rambler, who you can get sort of 18-1 plus about. I did think that he could be better than his mark, definitely. He's obviously been pitched into a pretty deep contest on his seasonal debut. It's his handicap debut as well, but he's got form that ties in with the likes of Shade of Winter and the Jukebox Kid over hurdles, and I think handicapping will bring him into a better light. And Emma Lavelle, of course, had a very well-backed handicap debutant, Marshantu, at the October meeting as well. So it might just give her a bit of an angle, a bit of a line into where this one fits in. But it is a deep race, I agree with you. Really competitive stuff. He'd be the one out overpriced horse in the race, but does that mean he's going to go and win? Not so sure.
Yeah, and I feel like that's what's happening with Holloway Queen, isn't it? 6-1, I think Bet365 are the lowest. Like I say, the 14s that were still about for William Hill, whether that's still there or not, I don't know. But she was well fancied, wasn't she, for a good race at Sandown, and then she ran in the Grade 1 at Aintree, and before that her form was on bad ground. So she looked like the type that would be much better than a handicapper. I think she's rated 1-2-7. Sometimes you just wonder if they're just starting the season and think, oh, let's just run her in a handicap and see what we've got with her, rather than it being as much of a plot as some people might think. But yeah, tricky looking race. I think the market will be hopefully informative by the time it comes through to Saturday. Moving on to the last race on Saturday. I don't know how strong an opinion you would have in a mare's bumper this early in the season, but for me, I'd have no interest. I'd be happy just to watch the race. How about yourself?
I agree, Dave. I agree. Sorry. It's in no reflection on the horses themselves. They're lovely, lovely horses, and they're going to win connections, some decent prize money, and have a good day out. But I wouldn't have a handle on the form at this stage, no.
Yeah, fair enough. I do like to have a little look through the breeding on these bits, so sometimes I can find a little gem on some of those every now and again. I think it was Indefatigibles' brother Litigate was a horse that came out, needed good ground, won at a big price on debut. So I'll have a little look at it just in case we can make a case. But when we're trying to preview these races so early, especially 2 days worth of action, we have to put our attentions in the races where we can get more stuck in. And this wasn't one of them. Right, Will? Thank you so much for your time on this one. It's been really good to talk horses like we used to do and like this. So we'll be keeping this format going forward as much as we can going forward. We will be back again for a Sunday video. We're recording that on Friday. And then there's obviously some real good racing there, the Greatwood Hurdle. And like I say, fingers crossed, we might have a bit of a feel of what the weather's doing, what the track's like, and then especially the forecast, what it would be like going into Sunday. But thank you guys always for your support, for supporting us with reading the articles, looking at the link in the description, and supporting us on the YouTube channel. So if you could make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not already, make sure you drop a like on the video and drop a comment with what your best bet would be for this weekend's fixtures, especially if they're Sunday ones. That could help us before we do our preview. But again, I'll just say thank you again for your support, and we will see you again very soon.